Hello, everyone. My name is Jakub Polaczyk. I'm the Vice President of New York Dance and Arts Innovation, also Artistic Director of the Chopin and Friends Festival. Today, our guest is the winner of our last year composition competition, New Vision, for the trumpet solo category. The composer originally based in England, UK, United Kingdom, Angela Elizabeth SLATER, who is here with us, who composed a piece that won the first prize for the trumpet C. We'll talk about this piece, As the Moon Runs Red. That's the title of the composition. But also we will talk about her recent time during pandemic, also about her future plans, also about Chopin. I just want to mention that we have a pleasure to meet this wonderful composer, got her graduation, also her PhD in composition recently, and also who is very active with the organizations of the concert life. You can everything find out on her websites about her bio. That will be under this link of this our conversation. So first of all, hello, Angela. Nice to meet you and congratulations for your first prize. How are you?
Hello, thanks. Yes, I'm good, thank you. I'm delighted to be here to discuss the piece and other things with you.
So my pleasure. And I want to ask you also maybe first, because where are you based originally in England? Can you tell us where you are now?
I'm based in a place called Stafford, which is in the West Midlands, sort of broadly between Manchester and Birmingham.
Manchester.
Yes, in normal times it's an excellent place to jump on the train and go to London, Birmingham or Manchester, but I haven't obviously been going anywhere for ages. But
I know. But how much time does it take to London, for example? How much time does it take?
Well, there's usually a fantastic train that just is only an hour and a quarter from where I live.
It's really good connection.
Yeah, so it's quite good considering some people live, like on the other side of London, and it will take them just as long to get into the centre. So I quite like living sort of out in a place where I can get to the countryside, but still jump on a train to the city if I need to. Like I said, in normal times anyway.
Normal times, okay. But also, so Angela, you graduated from which city?
I graduated from Nottingham University.
Nottingham University,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
Nottingham. So it's close to you, right, Nottingham?
Well, yeah, it's across the other side of the
Other
Midlands.
side.
So yeah, so that was in the East Midlands, and I'm now in the West Midlands. So.
Okay. So how many? I'm very curious. When we're talking about education, how many years does it take to get PhD in composition in England?
It takes 3 years. So I started in 2013 and finished just at the end of 2016, at the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
So I say I finished it recently, but perhaps it's not quite so recent.
Oh, it's recent.
So I'm a freelance composer, and I also have a part-time associate lecturer in composition position at Cardiff University.
I didn't know that. So congratulations. I also should mention Cardiff University. Okay.
Yes, it's quite recent. It's actually only been within the pandemic times. So I've been working for Cardiff University, but all from my home office. So I've not actually got to go yet, but I look forward to going eventually when this pandemic's over.
Yes, of course. But so Angela, so you teach by Zoom. Which platform do you use for teaching and communicating with students?
I use Zoom as well.
You use Zoom as well, right? So do you teach theory, composition, right? Everything virtually?
Yes, exactly. Yes, I'm on 2 of the composition modules and the sort of it's called Elements of Music for the first years, all the kind of music theory things. So it's a bit of a hybrid system. All the modules that I'm on are online, but for those who are running performance modules, those are prioritized because obviously it's not so good of an experience online doing performance, so they've prioritized the spaces for those, so everyone's in much larger rooms than they would be for certain activities, so they can spread out. Yes, everything for me has been online.
But the concerts at your university, are they virtual, or do you have concerts first of all there?
Yeah, there are concerts at the moment, and it's had to fluctuate, I think, depending on the current situation. So I think sometimes they've had performers come and it's just been recorded and then sort of been a digital concert for people to access. And I think they did want to hopefully have like a socially distanced audience at one point, but I'm not sure if that ever actually managed to happen in the end. But they are certainly trying to carry on with their concerts, as are a lot of universities in the UK. I know through I know we're going to talk about in a bit my Illuminate Women's Music project. I've had digital concerts at both the University of York and the University of Sheffield.
Definitely.
So there's definitely a lot of digital concerts going on in lieu of our normal ones.
Yeah.
The
same as our festival, you know, this premieres of this event, winning 4 pieces for horn, trumpet, saxophone, and for the trombone, they are going to be virtual. But you know, the situation is getting better and better in New York, so of course we'll have more concerts, and this year festival everything should be probably much better, so the concerts will happen during the next festival. But you know, of course, most of the things are still virtual here also in the States, so it's a little bit similar. But you know, let's go maybe now, Angela, to this piece. I will have a couple of questions. Maybe first of all, I want to tell about the title, As the Moon Runs Red. It's for solo trumpet. First of all, why did you choose trumpet? Do you like the brass instruments, and did you find it difficult to write for the solo trumpet?
Yes, so when I was writing this back in 2016,
Yeah.
I'd recently written a wind orchestra piece and sort of got to grips more with brass instruments through writing that. I've written actually 2 wind orchestra pieces in the past, but I didn't feel like as though I really knew all the ins and outs of the trumpet. So I approached Simon Debrulay, who is, you can see it's written for that.
That's
For him,
a dedication, as you can see on the screen here. This is the
yeah.
piece, As the Moon Runs Red, and the dedication, Simon. Yes.
Yeah, so I went and basically visited him, and he told me about and showed me, and we recorded the session of all the possible things I could explore on the trumpet, all the different colours, tonguing, and all the different mutes.
Mutes.
I think so. I really took a lot of that on board, and so before writing the piece, I would say I didn't feel confident or comfortable with writing for the trumpet. But after, you know, sort of being shown all these things and having the expertise of Simon Debrulay, and through the process of writing the piece and sort of collaborating with him on it, I definitely felt much more confident in writing for trumpet. And I'm actually going to be writing another trumpet piece later this year, so I'm feeling that, you know, it's good to remind myself of this piece, and I certainly feel like as though I have a lot of knowledge going into writing that.
But that's was it the first piece ever for the brass instrument, or not? This one.
This is, yeah, definitely the first solo brass instrument
brass
piece.
instrument.
You know, obviously I'd written it for brass in the context of an orchestra and wind orchestra, but never a solo piece. So this was my first brass solo piece.
Yeah, so tell a few words about the inspiration about the lunar eclipse of this piece. Yeah. Maybe just a few sentences shortly about this.
Yeah, well, I think it was because Simon had shown me so many of like the colours that the trumpet can create, that it led me to think that I could take on this kind of theme, and that it would be able to be communicated well through trumpet playing. So I'm always really interested in representing the natural world, or concepts from the natural world in my music. And As the Moon Runs Red is really meant to be a sort of musical representation of a lunar eclipse. And what happens in a lunar eclipse, as the moon passes behind the Earth, the shortest light lengths of colours such as violet and blue are scattered through the Earth's atmosphere, and only leaving the longer light lengths such as orange and red. So the piece sort of essentially tries to evoke the different colours, goes through each one, and then each one is sort of scattered off, revealing
a lot of changes. Yes, a lot of
the next the next layer, and I'm sort of representing the colours both through like a gestural language, timbral language, and harmony to an extent as well. And so when it gets into the orange and more red area, it's far more aggressive in its gestural language, and more rhythmical and everything. So I'm really sort of going into the kind of traditional trope, perhaps, of red as being something being fiery and angry and things. So and I know we'll talk a bit more about color, but this is, I see colors in many different ways, but this is the way that I was looking at it within this piece, in sort of in terms of taking on sort of perhaps traditional kind of tropes that we associate with colors, as a way to sort of determine the kind of musical character at any given moment.
But Angela, I have a question, especially also about this middle part when there is a dance that there is not, is like it stands when it's the stamp moment, like a dance of the sun or something, you know. It reminds me like sometimes dances by Messiaen's music, Oliver Messiaen, when you have this rotation, right, with this kind of very rhythmical impulses. And you have this in this piece. And also at the end, it's like a very, at the end you finish this piece with this kind of dance. So you have also a ritualistic element in this piece composition, right? Don't you?
Yes. Yes. So I mean that's just another favoring of the red being like this raw, and yeah, sort of I suppose almost like tribalistic kind of color, just as you were saying. So it's just another layer that you know, I asked Simon, do you think you'd be able to do this at the same time? And he was very open to trying things, and I think it just gave me another sort of counterpoint to the trumpet line, to really sort of ramp up the kind of red and dramatic and aggressive gestural language that I wanted to have within this section.
It has a lot of changes also inside the piece, and also regarding the pitches. When you were looking for the organization of the pitches, did you have any specific maybe pattern, or you just try to work to envision the gestures as you mentioned, or and colors? So how did you do?
Yes, I can't remember specifically because it was back in 2016 that I was working on this, but I generally when I'm working tend to think about intervals and interval faces, and I can't remember exactly what I was doing, but I would have definitely had a sort of set of interval faces for the different colour sections, and I'd work them at the piano and you know, sort of find the right ones that I think would evoke a certain colour. Sorry, to be more specific.
Okay, I understand. Okay, that's wonderful. You know, and also even the score, that you have the visual expressions, like for example in measure 74 regarding the color, into the raw fiery turmoil of red. So it's very visual expression, actually, which is unusual. Composer rarely do that, but it's very
yes.
Yes.
Well, I think I am quite visual in the way I think about music, and sometimes I like to paint as a way of sort of planning a musical composition. I didn't with this one, but I have increasingly done that, where, you know, it's just another sort of form in which you can sort of put your ideas down of color, of texture, of form, but in a different art form. And so then it's a great way of sort of solidifying those ideas and then translating them across to music. So even when I don't paint, I often think in quite visual ways, and that gets translated into my music.
And do you find inspirations from the paintings, or sometimes it's like when you go to the museums, or when you see the images, do you find them? Do you try to find metaphors, maybe not metamorphose, but maybe let's say like a metaphor for the paintings that you see? Do you like to transcribe different arts into your music?
Yeah, I have to say I don't think I've particularly like taken other people's visual arts
Mm-hmm.
and translated them into my music, though that is something that would probably be very, very interesting to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's more in my own either like mind's eye that I see something visual, or as part of the planning process for myself that I will actually paint something myself, um, as a way, like I was saying, to just sort of think about these ideas in a different platform, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Great. So
but
this is about this piece, you know, maybe we can hear, of course, later we have also our own recording for this trumpet solo piece, but I also want to maybe start a little bit slightly different now topic, because about the colors, because you said you are painting, which is actually a very interesting word when you write music, you are painting. That's great.
yeah,
Painting through the sound. So sound is very important for you. So last year we have a synesthesia art at the festival who was painting for them, also for the Brazilian National Orchestra, because when she hears the music, she can see the colors, as many artists in the past did that. Of
yeah.
course, also many composers. Okay. So maybe I would like to ask you two things now. If you believe in synesthesia, that you believe that you can really transform the colors into music and music into colors, and do you think, because I want to also ask you that Chopin was a visual composer, in your opinion, as a composer who was looking for the colors, for the timbres, and so what is your approach to this, Angela?
Whether I mean I believe the people who say they have synesthesia. I would say I don't have synesthesia myself, but I
Mhm.
do believe that there's a definite intrinsic link between the visual arts, but also dance and sort of gestural movement and music. And I definitely like to take both and try and sort of translate those into my music. So I think my music sort of engages with color in many different parameters within the compositional process, and into sort of different angles depending on the piece, in terms of harmony, timbre. I mean that the trumpet piece is definitely also with rhythm, but also with gesture and contours and shapes, and that's perhaps more with when I'm thinking about dance or movements within the natural world. Um, and in terms of Chopin, I think definitely in the terms of the ways that he colours his harmony, and he has these beautiful contours within his music, that he must have been thinking, well, he not necessarily must have, but I imagine he was thinking of things outside of just the music notes themselves. So yeah, I
Mhm.
that's what I.
So when you listen to the music of Chopin, do you have some visual associations? Like, for example, can you see visually this music?
Um, I mean, I don't like get colours per se,
No, but maybe some elements, maybe stories or maybe visual. Yes.
yes, I mean they certainly sort of cast sort of different lights and shades on the music as he, yeah, shifts through different harmonies and everything.
Mhm. But do you find out Chopin as an inspiration also for you as a composer in the 21st century?
Um, I've yeah, I mean, I've certainly listened to him a lot, but I would say that I perhaps take more inspiration from more modern composers living today, than Chopin himself. But it's obviously all fed through because of the the colours within Chopin's music and the music of people like Debussy and Ravel, is filtered through. Down in or up rather into contemporary music composers' language as well, which of course I'm engaging with. So
Mhm.
I think
Can you
people.
tell us some names of the modern composers that actually were important in your development as a composer and in your career?
Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot, really. I would say people, so initially, perhaps people like Messiaen, and of course, he obviously thinks about colour a lot. And then people like Oliver Knussen and Elliot
Hmm.
Carter,
Okay.
and some more modern composers. I don't know if you know of the composer Deborah Pritchard. She has.
Yes, yes, I know.
synesthesia, and I know she's very interested in Messiaen as well. And particularly at the moment, I like the music of Kaya Zariaho, and I find it very interesting the way she talks and conceptualizes the idea of timbre and being able to modulate timbre and idea of timbral dissonance versus timbral consonance, and that's something that I've put within my own music, but perhaps not quite to the same extent as Zariaho does. And then another composer that I find.
And you, Angela, by the way, visited Finland because Sarajevo is from Finland, from Helsinki, right? But you had the chance to go to the course, right, in Finland a few years ago. So
Yes.
you're familiar with this wonderful place for music nowadays, Finland, by the way.
Yes, I had the pleasure of going only for 10 days, but it was very beautiful. Yes, I went to the summer festival there and worked with the Avanti Chamber Orchestra.
And sorry, you also want to say the different name. Yes, one more composer.
Oh, yes, one more name. Oh, well, I mean, I could carry on for ages, but I think another significant composer for me is the composer Dai Futakura. I always think he explores the instruments to their and finds all the different sort of palette of colours that an instrument has, and explores them to the nth degree in any piece that he's writing. So I always find his music an excellent place to find and explore perhaps unusual colours. I particularly found his wind orchestra piece, my butterflies, as an excellent place in which I actually discovered the sort of vulnerability of brass instruments, and he has these fantastic fluttering harmonic tremolo
textures.
And textures
like butterflies,
Yeah, exactly, like butterflies. It's very effective.
I see. So you have a lot of inspiration, but also this nature always. Composers, right? But also the nature. What is the area where you are now? Do you have like a meadows? Do you have a lake around yourself? Do you have a lot of natures or no?
I wish I had a lake and a meadow around me. That sounds nice. Well, where I grew up when I was, a child, I grew up in Nottinghamshire, and behind my house there were farm fields and woods. So I've always been really sort of close to the countryside. It wasn't necessarily anything of, wouldn't be classified as an area of outstanding natural beauty or anything, but it was, our local countryside. And now where I live, I'm on the edge of Stafford, and I just have to walk a few streets and over a motorway bridge. But then I'm equally in that same kind of countryside, along country lanes and farm fields and things. There's no woods, unfortunately, but it's beautiful in its own way, but it's not something as spectacular as, say, the Lake District, which is a place that if I could afford to live there, I think I would. It's beautiful. So I've always been fascinated by sort of concepts from the natural world, and the patterns and constructions and colours within the natural world, and movement within the natural world.
How also about the universe, the natural world, but also the universe? Because actually also the piece, the trumpet solo, was with the universe.
Yes, I suppose I see it all as the natural world. I suppose anything outside of ourselves, you could argue, on a bigger level. Yes.
Yes, but you about this nature in your music, right? And about so many words. So do you find out, because you mentioned orchestra, I have this one question for you. Do you prefer writing for the big ensembles, big orchestras, or maybe solo instruments or chamber music? What do you think fits better for your music, for your language?
I have to say, I think my favourite thing to do is writing a concerto. And that's something I've been working on just at the beginning of 2020. Before lockdown, I'd started working on my piano concerto, which was all due to have performances at the end of 2020, but like everything else has been
piano concerto
postponed to further. Yes, a piano concerto. And what I think I loved about that is that I could explore everything that you can within a solo piece, because I think within a solo piece you can almost find an orchestral palette of the instrument itself. But then, of course, writing for orchestra is always a pleasure for a composer. You know, you've got your whole toy box and toolkit and all the colors, and you know, you can just do anything and everything you want with it. So I think what's quite interesting about doing a concerto is that you can engage with both finding all the colors of that instrument, but then using the orchestra to sort of enhance them to another level. So I've really enjoyed that.
Yes, very well. Chopin, when the piano has a dominant role and the orchestra is mostly like accompaniment, right? There must have so many concertos, piano concertos, and it's fun. It's fun to write a concerto nowadays. But I didn't find much music with also the text, with the poems. Do you write a lot of like? Have you ever tried to write opera?
No, I haven't written for opera yet, but I think it's something that I hope to do. I'm actually going on a virtual summer course this summer with what's it called? A sort of vocal squeezed opera vocal lab. It's based in New York, actually.
Oh, in New York, virtual.
So I will get to sort of engage with that kind of language a bit more.
Maybe let me ask you about your last year, about your activity as a composer. So, yeah. Of course, it was very difficult to have a premieres, but I noticed on your website that you have this double bass solo piece that I would like us maybe to listen at the end of our conversation. That it was a premiere. And when did you compose it? And tell also about this project, a few words, okay?
Yes, well, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, because I've actually written 2 double bass pieces this year. That year.
You wrote 2 pieces.
Yes, I know. It seems to be the year of the double bass for me. So the first one was because I was meant to be at Tanglewood Music Festival, you know, in Massachusetts.
Yes.
But it was a virtual festival instead, and they paired the composition fellows with the double bass fellows. And I wrote a piece called A Daughter Yesterday for double bassist Maggie Cox. And it was through that I had the connection with her, so I wrote her another piece after that. And that was part of this project that's called Connected Skies, and it's essentially like a challenge for myself between October 2020 and May this year to write 6 solo works, one for double bass, cello, accordion, flute with glissando head joint, solo percussion, and mezzo soprano. So I'm partway through that project at the moment, and so I just finished the double bass piece for Maggie in the summer for the Tanglewood project, and I leapt straight into another double bass piece, which is called The Aching Space Between. So I'm not sure which one you were.
I think I found out that's on your website. That's the first one, the from Tanglewood, I think.
Yes? Right. Yes, A Daughter Yesterday.
Yes, we can listen to this piece at the end of this our conversation. It's a very recent work that you really composed during lockdown, right? For the upcoming year, you mentioned about the projects, about virtual projects, about your piano concerto, but what are also your plans for this year and the next year as a composer?
So I'm going to obviously be finishing off this Connected Skies project. I'm just at the moment working on the solo percussion piece, and I'm going to be starting work on the mezzo soprano piece. I'm also working on a piece for the Royal Scottish National Orchestra.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Tuesday this week, I had a workshop with them for a chamber orchestra piece, which actually took part of this solo trumpet piece, As the Moon Runs Red. It took the last section of it as an imagined concerto, because with this solo trumpet piece, when I was writing it, I was always imagined that it could be a concerto within itself, and one day I'd like to turn the whole piece into a concerto. So I took this workshop opportunity as a sort of place to explore how that might come across. But I'm also writing another more full symphony orchestra piece for them that will be performed in June. So
a lot of work, very busy time for you.
Yes, yeah, and I mean that's not the end of it as well. So as I mentioned, I've got another piece for trumpet and piano to write. So lots of brass things, and I'm also writing a brass quintet piece for the Stockholm Chamber Brass Academy.
A lot of
so
pieces,
I've got learned all the other brass instruments in great detail as well. So yes, piling on the projects at the moment.
You are very, very busy, but Angela, also tell us, because you have your own organization with the own festival, and could you tell a bit so about this?
Called Illuminate Women's Music.
Illuminate Women's Music, exactly. Illuminate Women's Music.
Yes, so I set this up in 2017, and it really came out of sort of realization for myself that I wasn't really aware of many women composers, and that I certainly, when I look back at my education, I hadn't been introduced to any women composers. So I set about thinking, how can we change things? How can we perhaps start affecting everyone's sort of personal canons? And so I set up this this organisation called Illuminate Women's Music, and in normal times the idea of it is that we have a performer or performers in residence for a certain season, and we commission 5 to 6 living women composers, and we take those new pieces and we program them alongside historical works by women composers, and then we would go to 5 or 6 places across the UK, all sorts of places, universities, churches, normal concert series, so that it would reach all sorts of different people, and I like the idea of taking in different performers each season, so that they have some repertoire that they can then take forward into their own recital programs, and that the music will live on afterwards as such, and start hopefully getting into the sort of performance and repertoire canon. So I'd been doing that for a number of years. So the first full year was 2018, and then I did 2 seasons in 2019, one of which I took a few concerts out to the US, because I was in Boston, Massachusetts, because I had got the Mendelssohn Scholarship Award. Was studying with Michael Gandolfi at New England Conservatory at the time.
So you studied at the New England Conservatory? Did you study?
Only for like it wasn't sort of, it was just with Michael Gandolfi really.
Just study, okay. Yeah, just for a moment.
Yeah, just sort of for the length of a semester. But yes, his tutelage has been extremely useful, and is, I think, transformed my harmonic language and things. So yeah, that was fascinating. And at the moment, Illuminate Women's Music has a digital concert series, because obviously we had lots of concerts planned, like everyone did, but they've all been postponed and so on. So at the moment, running these sort of monthly digital concert series where we have a soloist who puts a program together of music by women.
That's great. Every month, right? Each month.
Each month until June at the moment, but hopefully we'll plan some more.
So you have your YouTube channel, right, of this organization, right, that we can watch it? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
I will include this also in the info of our conversation, this link to this.
Yes.
Those concerts. Yes. Wow. So that's a lot of work, because every month you have one concert. A lot of work. You have to compose so much, and also do the festival and teaching. How do you find time for all of those activities?
I'm not sure. I'm spinning too many plates, I think. It sometimes I don't know, sometimes seems a bit too much. It somehow hasn't come crashing down on me yet, so I'll keep going.
So I wish you, first of all, to have a free time also for your composition, because you are so active. Also a lot of inspiration in this year, and also great students, and also that all the situation will get better in England. I don't know how is, by the way, the situation of vaccination. Is it fine in England now?
Yeah, the vaccinations are going along.
Oh, so that's great. So soon will be probably everything will be on the will be fine. Yes, we'll come back to the.
I hope so.
Let's hope for this. Yes. So I wish you for this year also the in-person concert. Not so many virtual. That you can also travel, and again, congratulations for your this trumpet piece, and all the best in your future career as a composer, as an artist, as an organizer of the concert life. And it was my pleasure to have conversation with you, and thank you very much for all those things that you shared with us. So, and all the best for you, Angela.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been wonderful to talk.
Great, and now we're going to listen your bass solo piece, the first bass solo piece that you composed during the lockdown in 2020, so last year. So bye-bye, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.